Hey there, everybody. It's Maggie from Personal Euphoria with today's plank story. So if you want to pick your favorite move to do for a little while, it's gonna be another long one. All these trips from our journey are long, but hopefully worth it. So again, if you want to do plank, you can do a plank for 30 seconds of it, a minute of it, and then pick a different exercise. So you don't have to be stuck with one movement for the whole time either. But let's get the clock on. All right, here we go. So the plank story in question of last week is, would you get into a kayak into a body of water with alligators? And most of my family said no. Most people I met said no. And if they'd ever been to the Everglades, they said there were so many alligators that once I was in the Everglades, this would not be a decision I had to make. I would see for myself. Well, we actually didn't see a lot of alligators, which disappointed Matt. And we got to this one place where you could rent kayaks, and it turned out it was a canal that didn't have alligators but crocodiles. And I said, "Ooh, well, that's promising. Now no one's premonition can come true. No one had a premonition about a crocodile problem." So we go up to rent them, and the place says, "Oh, we're all sold out for the day," which maybe I should take as a sign, but I don't. I book for the first thing next morning so that we can do this kayaking in a canal in the Everglades. And the next morning I wake up and I'm like, am I just stupid? Is this a bad choice? Are we going to get eaten by a crocodile? They seem even scarier than alligators. So I start doing research, and I can find nothing on crocodiles because I don't think it's a big issue actually here in Florida. But what I find is a ton of statistics on alligators. And it turns out in Florida every year there's one fatal alligator attack and 7 alligator bites of humans, which doesn't seem that bad. What it works out to is your odds of getting bit by an alligator in Florida are somewhere between 1 and 2.3 million and 1 in 3 million. Not great odds. Your odds of getting struck by lightning anywhere in the world are 1 in 500,000. And I don't worry all the time about getting struck by lightning, though I am aware that getting in a kayak in a canal with gators or crocodiles is a little more like going outside in a lightning storm. You're increasing your chances. But I also decide that my experience in national parks is that rangers will never use the word safe, and they're super cautious, and they try to get you to hesitate to do anything even remotely dumb. And so if they are there renting kayaks and telling you it's okay, I decided it must be pretty safe. And one of the rangers we met said that she works in the Everglades, but she's also worked in Yellowstone, and she is less afraid of issues with alligators than the animals that she deals with in Yellowstone. So that made me feel better. So we go on the kayak trip. It's great. It's lovely. We see a crocodile from a distance. We see a baby crocodile and 3 manatees. It's a wonderful morning. And then we signed up, and this should be the even scarier part, for what was called a wet walk, where a ranger takes a group of people into the Everglades. You go waist deep into the water, and you have like a walking stick to help you stabilize because the surface isn't totally flat, and to look for like alligator holes so you don't fall in. And this is something they do daily and say is safe. And I don't think there has been an issue on one of these wet walks. It was hands down the best part of the Everglades. And if I'd been too scared to go into the water, I never would have seen it. Because truthfully, it's not that I wasn't enjoying my time in the Everglades. I was, but it wasn't one of the prettiest national parks to me. It kind of looked like swamp and prairie, and parts of it were pretty, but mostly it was like a lot of prairie and looking like swamp. And when you get inside and you have this sort of expert who is teaching you about the place they love, it's like anything. You can't help but fall deeper in love with it. So when we're in the water of the Everglades, what I learned is that it's not a swamp, but a moving river. The water is crystal clear, although sometimes it had like a color to it, but if it was settled, you could still see all the way to the ground. There was this algae that everywhere we had been walking looked really gross, but we got to play with it and touch it, and then it was more interesting. There were snails and carnivorous plants, these beautiful flowers growing up out of the water that are carnivorous. And then we walk like deeper into what's called the cypress dome, and it's just all these large cypress trees growing in a lot of water, and it was beautiful. And the ranger said something that was sort of similar to a ranger we went on tour with when we were in Arches National Park. So years ago we were in Arches and we went on a guided tour, and at one point the ranger stops and says to all these adults, "Climb on the rocks, have fun, play. This is a national park. This is your playground." And I always remember that struck me, right? That we should be playing in this land that's preserved for us. And so this ranger in the Everglades kind of stopped and said, okay, all of you guys take a moment, walk around, go off on your own, explore the Cypress Dome. Watch out for alligators. And it was just lovely. And I do think that, you know, we have this land and it's meant to be explored and shared with people who can teach us how to appreciate it even more. And that's so often the case in life, right? We, you know, someone who knows what they're talking about tells us something about a place or a person, and we come to understand it and relate to it better and appreciate it more. So I told you it was a long one. That is exactly a 5-minute plank. I hope you did different movements, but I do hope you moved, you know? Even if it was like snack time while you were listening. Anyway, have a great day as always. Keep moving.